only recently, in terms of a new map and awareness that Beijing was trying to inculcate amongst its countrymen, it put out a new map, and on that map, Arunachal Pradesh and Aksai Chin were part of Chinese territory. Now, these claims were absurd. We've been calling it out for the longest time. Take a look at that. And at the same time, there were a lot of jokes that were doing the rounds on social media as well, saying that, how about India also just makes a new map and we just inculcate Beijing on our map. That's the kind of absurd claims that China has been making, and that's exactly what External Affairs Jaishankar also said. Even as you're looking at these news about a satellite agency prepping up it's building up its base in the border areas, it becomes really important for India to react.
That is the big question that they've been asking. In fact, Jaishankar has said that it is an old habit, it's not going to die out fast when he came to speak about the map. But then when the PLA structure is there, when you're talking about PLA having structures in Aksai Chin where we have a presence, we have a claim, and at the same time also in Arunachal, they are trying to in fact build structures and presence in all these places. Now, please understand over here, China is an imperial power. It has always been an imperial power. Either it has been in civil war within itself. If once that civil war had been resorted to, and then there is some kind of power emerging within China, they tend to in fact have imperial ambitions, and those imperial ambitions driven by a centrist force. Centrist in the force in the sense I'm talking about a power that controls everything from one point in that country. They tend to have conflicts with the neighboring nations as well because they have imperial ambitions, and China's imperial ambitions is still there, though it considers itself as a socialist country. I think it's come far of it. What we are looking at is at a red imperial China. China has claims on Taiwan. China has put claims on all territories in the 9-dash line, that is the whole of South China Sea, though there are other countries like Philippines, Vietnam, Malaysia, Brunei, all of them competing against China on that claims. And China has been very militaristic about it also. It has established islands over there. Similarly, when it comes to us, China has been building these border villages. China has been ramping up PLA. They also allowed the construction of, their Karakoram highway connections have been established that go towards our area of the claim. Secondly, one more thing is that with Pakistan's collusion, they have also ensured that the Belt and Road Initiative goes through occupied territory of Pakistan, occupied territory in Kashmir as well.
Well, absolutely. So, even as we're playing out those visuals of Xi Jinping and Prime Minister Modi, because it's important to note that both of them met at the BRICS summit. They're again going to meet at G20. But again, all of this is happening ahead of G20. China released what it called the 2023 edition of the standard map of the country, showing Aksai Chin and Arunachal Pradesh within its territory. Map released by China's Ministry of Natural Resources. Also in April, Beijing had announced standardized geographical names for those 11 places, what Varghese was exactly talking about, in Arunachal, including nondescript peaks and forest tracts. Now, as Jaishankar says, China has even in the past put out maps which claim the territories which are not China's. This is an old habit of theirs. Making absurd claims does not make others people's territories your own. Rahul Gandhi has reacted on this particular aspect. Let's take a look at what Rahul Gandhi had to say, even as he's on his way to Karnataka to launch the Gruha Lakshmi scheme. Rahul Gandhi's perspective on China's absurd claims.
पूरा लद्दाख जानता है कि चाइना ने हमारी जमीन हड़प ली, तो ये मैप की बात तो बड़ी गंभीर है, मगर इन्होंने जमीन तो ले ली है, तो उसके बारे में भी प्रधानमंत्री को कुछ कहना चाहिए.
Well, so Varghese, important to note here that he is saying Pura Ladakh janta hai. You remember he was on his motorbike speaking to people in the Leh main market, at all these places, visited Kargil, the youth over there as well. So fitting in that angle over there as well, that I've visited that place, okay. But he's saying that all of Ladakh knows that, China is gaining territorially in that particular region, which is of grave significance to our security and foreign policy as
My
well.
big question is G20 is happening, and if China is becoming very aggravated about it, then
Right.
I think the call should be out there that China needs to be called out for what they do, because at a G20 meeting, it looks like the intention of China is also to aggravate India at the same time. It doesn't want India to hold the G20, or maybe probably it wants to create furore within the G20, because see, look at China. China wants to become the preeminent power in Asia. It doesn't want any challenges to its power and its ability to, project that power. So, if that is the case, why on earth would it let India, in fact, prosper? Why on earth would it let India challenge it? This is the question that we have to, in fact, focus on this when it comes to the issue about
Right.
China.
China map comes just ahead of Xi's India trip. India, however, has always responded by asserting that the state is and will always remain an integral and inalienable part of India. Talking about, of course, Arunachal Pradesh and the Aksai Chin. The timing of the latest release is suspect, as it comes just before Chinese President Xi Jinping's visit for the G20 summit and days after his informal conversation with PM Narendra Modi, a major foreign power over there as well. Now, the talks were seen as an effort to break the deadlock in the military standoff in the eastern Ladakh area before Xi's visit, but it seemed to come unstuck days later, with both sides differing even on who proposed the meeting. While China said it was at Modi's behest, India countered it by saying there was a proposal from China for a bilateral meeting and that the two leaders only had an informal chat, not an official one. So, what's going to happen on this front? Well, we'll have to wait and find out. The External Affairs Minister has, of course, come and reacted. The Minister of External Affairs' spokesperson, Arindam Bagchi, he's given out an official statement. But the release also comes just after Chinese President's informal conversation with PM Modi. That is something that one has to, of course, decode. Both parties also, exchanging barbs as to who decided on calling on this meeting.
See, the fact remains is that Xi has been trying to project himself. Xi is a abnormal leader when it comes to the manner in which power sharing has happened in China. This is the third term he's getting. Normally, it doesn't happen in the Chinese Communist Party. You get 2 terms and you're retired. There is a kind of a check and balance power structures there. Xi has tried to overcome it. So, technically speaking, he's been that abnormal leader who has been there, who's trying to, in fact, raise himself on top of it. But keeping Xi's power to be known quite well, that he is having complete control of China and its entire Communist Party as well. One thing is that China is becoming a colonial power. Tibet is under its rules. You have Xinjiang or Uyghur that we call, we've seen how, or East Turkmenistan that we call, how the people over there are being completely harrowed out. A huge number of claims that have been also been made in certain territories in East Asia.
The ironical statements that are coming across from China, that has been captured very nicely by the Dainik Bhaskar. The Dainik Bhaskar says, चीन लद्दाख में पीछे हटने को राजी, पर अरुणाचल को अपने मानचित्र में दर्शाया. So, on the BRICS summit, you say that you're ready to, talk about de-escalation and disengagement, and just days later, ahead of G20, you're putting out this map. Basically, what's up, boss? Is the question.
No, this is, I mean, any.
And you're right, at the G20, maybe China should be called out.
Yeah, I think G20, they should be called out. And see, we can look at, maybe China is looking for an incident in G20. That is why it's trying to, in fact, raise the bar over here. PLA build up, you're talking about the map coming in just ahead of it. It wants to just prove the fact that India is not capable or mature enough to hold a meeting like this. So I think India, having to have seen what China's game plan would actually be calm about it and let G20 happen, after which India will make those statements and requisite posturing as well. But Kabir, as I always say, you need to engage with your enemy, but when it comes to China, you engage with China, but keep your powder dry. You don't know when you need to light that fuse on that powder to keep your enemy away.